All right, thank you for staying with us. We have a book chat this morning. Dr. Emmanuel Udofia PhD is an author, speaker, course facilitator, industry advisor, a digital transformation expert, and petroleum engineering consultant. He is a best-selling author of the book, The Digital Leader, Demystifying Leadership in the Era of Digital Transformation. It's great to have you, Dr. Emmanuel. You are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
This is quite the resource material because from what I can see, it's a book that you need with some other kind of book to really understand because it's quite technical, but it speaks to a particular set of people. But I like what you've done with this here, Digital Leader, Demystifying Leadership in the Digital Transformation Era. And maybe let me just start from the teaser. It says here, the fast-changing global technological advancements during the last decade have heightened the need to find a framework that will assist in identifying an effective leadership style in digital technology, implementation, and management. The term digital transformation refers to the application of technology to improve a business process. Let's expatiate on that. That term, digital transformation.
Digital transformation, thanks for having me. Digital transformation basically looks at how you bring in technology to improve your business. It's not really about technology. It's about finding solution to a business problem. So you should be able to identify business problem. Then how can technology help you solve it or mitigate it? And that's the whole essence of, what digital transformation is.
Wonderful. So this is something that will not just apply to the petroleum engineering field. It's something that we can cut across different strata, all across.
Every strata of business. In fact, when I'm going to any place, I immediately just see those opportunity. Is maybe why you are even talking about the petroleum area is maybe because that's my base, but it applies across sector. Yeah. So
let's go with chapter 3. Chapter 1 is an introduction to it. Chapter 3 says digital transformation real life case studies. Let's take a look at one case study that you mentioned here, and let's break it down a little bit. What do you mean by that? Those case studies.
Case study basically, in fact, there are a lot of case studies here. But if I should come back to my base, in the oil and gas, we've used technology a lot. For instance, if you want to test a well, you used to do it manually.
Manually, okay.
Yeah, but with technology, you do it. You can automate the process because, for instance, if you go to deep water, anytime you carry out a routine well test, you have what we call deferment. Some might call it loss. And with technology, you can override that process.
Now, does this in any way reduce the sort of risks that petroleum engineers are exposed to, maybe in deep waters and all of that? Because I think just a few days back, I was going through, someone put up a post and says, oh, I make, I think it was $2,000 or so, maybe a week or so, and he was talking about how he spends, of course, he is on deep waters, exploration and all of that, and then he spoke about the risks, some drugs they have to take because of the weather and all of that. Is there any way that this sort of digital transformation, is there any way that it helps mitigate maybe some sort of, risks that, engineers could face in the field?
Like I said, this is not really about petroleum or engineers. It cuts across sector.
Okay, cuts across. Yeah,
but
definitely.
In terms of digital transformation, there are 3 things it deals with.
Okay.
First, it brings efficiency into what you do. Second, it brings fast decision making.
Okay.
And third one, the risk. It minimizes
the risk.
Yeah. So for regardless of any sector you apply it, those 3 components. Okay. And when you put those 3 components, it translates into profitability.
Okay, let's look at the case study of, say, somebody who's a chef. Okay, let's look at a chef.
Yeah.
How does a chef implement these sort of digital, modules into what he or she is doing to ensure that profitability may be scaling up or something? How do they?
You just talked about risk. The question I will want to ask, we look at the business process. Maybe for the chef, maybe it's close to the burner. With technology, maybe you don't need to get close to that burner. Yeah. So technology can help you do that. Maybe you want to carry out any process, because what we normally do basically is to do an assessment.
Okay.
When you do the assessment, you should be able to come up with what technology could help you do in terms of opportunity.
Wonderful, wonderful. So for every specific business, there are unique ways that you can access
Absolutely, absolutely. And we call, because when you talk about digital transformation, it's about the tools, smart device, the domain expert or the people, then the business process. When you talk about business, when you talk about who is using what to do something and achieving what.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, I love chapter 8, and that's because I understand the power of collaboration. It says collaborative work environment solution. Let's expatiate a little bit on that.
Yeah. Like I said, the book is actually for everybody, as long as you can read.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it applies across any business. When you talk about collaboration, of course, technology is disruptive.
Yeah.
Technology forces people to work collaboratively. By nature, we work in silos. By nature, we are territorial. But if you truly implement technology, deploy it in the adoption phase, it will force the teams. But the challenge, like I said, in disruption, because technology takes you away from your comfort zone.
It does.
And people normally resist it.
Very true.
And that is where the issue of the content of this book, strong leadership, come into play. Because before you actually deploy technology, you need to have very senior leaders. They must be on board.
And there are people that are open to accepting.
They just need to be on board, because when we do an assessment, the first set of who we want to engage with is the very senior leaders at the highest level. 10, 15 minutes is fine, because we must extract their commitment.
Now, you said there's something talking about that leadership. You said something here, digital transformation leadership styles. What are the styles that you are referring to here?
There are different. What I looked at in that book, I look at strategic leadership. I look at vision, because vision is very important there, and innovation. Those three components are what we looked at. Because when we talk about vision, in deploying technology, you must be able, after the assessment, you must be able to clearly define your business objective. And what's the business objective? Why are you doing technology? You are not deploying technology because of technology. You are deploying technology because you want to solve a real-life business problem. And it must be smart, tangible. I mean, people must connect with it. When I'm talking about people, I'm not talking about people at the top, even those at the cool face. Because the reality is that there are three areas that you look at before you do the deployment: the engagement. Because if you don't do the engagement, there's a wrong perception. Whenever I carry out a training on this, there's a common question I always have, and that is, am I going to lose my job?
Very true.
The answer is a yes and a no.
And I know.
Because what is going to happen, already is happening, there will be job realignment. And what that simply means is that people need to adapt to the new way of doing things.
I like that, to adapt.
Yeah.
To adapt. Let's go, chapter 15, which is the conclusion. Let me just take a line here. It says, we do not see things as they are. We see things as we are. Digital leaders must intentionally detach from emotional involvement or interest and deal with issues strictly on business need, because strong leadership drives innovation. Now, that's something that a number of people find it hard to overcome, that emotional aspect. We relate with our businesses as though, but that's what that data-driven indices will help you. You don't see, there's no emotion involved. This is clearly business decisions. Yeah, let's wrap up with that.
Yeah, if you look at that, if you look at chapter 8, where we talked about what I dedicated a chapter for data. everything in technology is being driven by data.
By data.
There's what I call data democratization, meaning that anybody should be able to have access to data on a need-to-know basis.
That is somewhere we are really lacking in as a nation, data. Because when you look at it from, I mean, the other day we heard about the president, I don't know when last did we have a census. We don't have, how many are we really? We take an estimate and say 200 million. So we say, no, we are now getting to 300 and all of that. Data, that's something that as a nation or as a people, we find it hard to grasp or find it hard to, to make a part of us. So it's something that is very important. If technology is to excel, if technology is to help transform, that means data is very important.
Absolutely. Data is the engine of AI. Maybe people might not say it, but that is what it is. And that is why people just need to get the book, particularly on I dedicated a chapter for data. Because if you get the wrong data, you are going to make the wrong inference. Like you talk about the emotions. I mean, this is not about emotion.
Yeah.
Data should speak.
Should speak.
And based on data, you should be able to make those decisions.
Well, what if that data is not accessible? Because I've seen where people wanted to do something, but because that data, I maybe in a smaller business, I can't curate it together, and they are not accessible. How do I overcome such a hindrance where where you expect that the system should provide such data and you don't have access to it easily? What can you do in your own way? Yeah,
at the foundation, or what we call the first phase, we call it connecting the organizations. There are standard tools that collate this data. And people should be, because you should have a common source of data. Okay. That's very important. It shouldn't be a question of, this is Mike's data. This is Emmanuel's data. Yes, it must be a common, that have gone through the process of verification and validation.
And like the verification and validation.
Yeah, validation simply means that we have gone through the process and we are happy that this is a data that really speak or truly represent what we are looking at.
Authenticity. Yeah. Wonderful.
And based on that, I talked about, like I mentioned earlier on, data democratization. That was a term I just coined because what does it mean? I don't need to talk to Mike to get the data that I need.
It should be accessible.
Accessible.
To everybody.
To everybody.
Wonderful.
On a need-to-know basis. Because there are certain data that you don't need to know.
Okay, yes, very true.
And the system or the business process will clearly define that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Emmanuel, this is quite a resource material. It's something that people should always get back into in the course of their business. And well done. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. So we do have breakfast. I don't know if you mind.
Yeah.
Okay, let's maybe let's take a look at it.
Okay.
And let's hear your thoughts. Let's hear.